Welcome to Dark Days Radio. This is another Dark Days Radio Dark Iron episode, part of the Telefor Warcasters. Not all of us are here, so I'm Chris, and I'm joined by Kenda again. We would have had Mark, but I think Mark was... I would have ideally wanted to get Mark on here, but he was not able to make it to Lock and Load. And so the idea of this episode is actually less about Warmachine as a game and Warmachine as a collecting kind of, painting the models per se. But we're going to talk about what it was like going to Warmachine Lock and Load EU 2026. Because for me, it's the first Warmachine exclusive event I've been to. So for you, Kenda. And also, it's the first time I've been to I didn't take part in a tournament, but I was good seeing a tournament in process for Warmachine. It gives me, and I'll say a bit more about that. And it just seemed a bit kind of a nice kind of premium event for Warmachine, which is really cool. And it's an EU event rather than Lock and Load normally takes place 6 months from now in the US. And then there's also Adepticon, which are pretty big events in the Warmachine calendar. So it's nice to have something that's ours, as it were. So let's just get into your first impressions then, Kenda. Like you rock up to Sheffield on you were en route for MPO down in Bristol though. So obviously you took a train from. Did you take a train or a car?
I took a train from Manchester up to Sheffield. I took 6 trains that day. It was ridiculous. Train from Manchester up to just outside Manchester up to Sheffield, and then in the middle of nowhere, in this incredible venue. My first impression was, where is the taxi driver taking me? Because we were just leaving, and I was like, what is going on? And then when we got to the venue, I was like, oh, I get it. What an incredible space. What an incredible building. It was, what was it called? The Adventure Space Center or something like that.
It's the Magna Science Center. Science Adventure Center.
Yes, it had adventure in it, which is exciting.
It's just past Meadowhall, or Meadowhall, depending on how people have their opinion of that giant shopping center. It's between, essentially it's Sheffield, but it's technically Rotherham, whichever way, however you want to cut it. It's Sheffield, really. I mean, in the sense
it was amazing. The building was just like, I've never gone to an event where arriving at the building already feels like I'm part of the narrative play, because of all of the way that the building is structured out and all the stuff on the outside. I was really impressed with the venue.
Yes.
It was really, really nice. And then sort of walked in, everybody was super, super welcoming. Once you found the location, which was also, again, part of the scavenger hunt was actually getting there. And then, an incredible whole, straight into it. I love the fact that there was, as you walked in, guys, you walk in, on the left-hand side is the bar and the kitchen and a seating area where you could sit down, which was lovely. And then on the right, you had the welcome and registration desk, some of the Warmachine products, P3 paint, a little painting station. And then in front of you is just this massive narrative table that had a train running down the middle. And then you had playing tables to the left and to the right. So it was really nice, because you didn't walk in and feel like you were in a convention hall. You immediately walked in and felt like you were part of the game already. And then there were cabinets of beautifully painted models at the back. There was guys casting at the back as well. Then there were all the event, the little break of spaces that you could go to if you'd pre-booked to go into any of the painting sessions and basing sessions and that kind of stuff. It was super cool. I really, really liked the way that it was laid out. I thought it was laid out really, really well.
Yeah, it was super chill. I didn't know what to expect, and that's because when I've seen tournaments for the certain other games being run in local shops, is wall to wall, nerds rolling dice and the venue would be just the.
It feels like a sports hall a lot of the time.
Yeah, I think the thing is that when you're in a shop like as much as I like Outpost, it's great. It's a great shop. It can get quite loud in there when there's a tournament going on. This is just the way the sound bounces around. They're trying to pack in as many people as possible, so you're right next to someone else. Especially because 40k takes place on a almost 6 foot by almost 4 foot board.
Yeah, they're massive tables, right?
So you don't really have much space to yourself.
People.
And so you're constantly shouting over the other people so your opponent can hear you.
Yeah.
You might be having to shout over other people because there's so many rules quibbles in Warhammer 40,000, maybe. Not to be
shouting
a bitch,
for TOs the whole time.
I will be. But yeah, you're right. It was super chill in there. So I've been into that hall before for the, it was ages ago now, but for, it's where they run HorrorCon UK.
Ah, okay.
And I think even that felt quite, even though it was like walking around UK Games Expo and there's tons of stalls and people selling stuff, and it's quite, you're trying to push past people to get to see what you want. I think I remember it not being massively noisy.
Yeah, I think the hall's designed really well. There are quite a bit of sound baffles at the top of the hall. But I guess you'd expect that from a science centre to know how to distribute sound appropriately. But no, I didn't feel. Obviously, I went on the Friday, which was one of the quieter days, because everyone's at work. But I didn't realise that it was the qualifying thing for the what was it called? The tournament that was being played.
You've got the Iron Gauntlet, so you've got qualifiers for that.
Yeah, it was the qualifiers for Iron Gauntlet. So I was genuinely surprised by how many people were there. It was quite busy on the Friday already. So,
and yeah, like you said, the tables you had, obviously the size of the tables meant that you had a good, you could roll out they rolled out and had good terrain, really good terrain, not L shapes. 4x4 tables to play on, but then you also had plenty of space around them to put your chips and tokens and tablet down, and so forth. So again, it felt relaxed in that way. You weren't the tables weren't right next to each other, so there was room to walk around them and room for people to walk around and observe. So that was really good. And yeah, so I was talking to Travis about this. So Travis works for Steamforged, and he writes on the RPG with me. So it's the first time I met him in person, and he explained how the competitive play worked. So you had Iron Gauntlet, which people were qualifying for if they hadn't yet. So that's your ultra competitive level.
Yeah.
And so that is the one that leads, you're going to get the knockout rounds until you've got the final pairing. And then you have Steamroller, which is your competitive play, where you obviously record your games so that you get ranked on Longshanks, which is where they store all the results for that. It's also where Steamforged Games pulls some data from to understand where the game balance is.
Yeah, makes sense.
And then you had, I think they were running team events, and they were also running Tales from the Front Lines. So that's where you're playing semi-competitive, but using the more narrative 50-point scenarios. And then, of course, as you said, you got the whole narrative table, which was just complete madness and chaos ensuing.
It was great. It was so great. I kept being drawn back to it the whole time.
And the thing for me is it felt very much like it had an element of what I really enjoyed from not Games Day, back when I worked for Games Workshop. I went to one Games Day and I worked one. But we also had, back in the day, this would be 2004, we had, there were local Games Days that were run called Apocalypse events.
Oh.
And one of these was running Manchester, and it was kind of the same deal. You had, there was some stuff being sold, So there was some new stuff out that was being sold. There were narrative tables, such as the giant lizardman table that had been built at that time. And that was an absolute arse to get into that hall, into the venue, because it had to go up some escalators for some godforsaken reason. That was madness. And then they had tournaments running in like the more auditorium part of the hall. So again, it felt like that, and that's why I think it really worked. And with the seminars, because there were the hobby seminars on how to paint undead flesh and do basing, because Spen was there as well doing basing and weathering techniques, and then the lore seminars. It just felt really a holistic kind of hobby event, and there was not really any queuing to do something. Like, you're not queuing 10 hours to play the new edition. So I never went to Warhammer Fest, but I heard horror stories about like how it wasn't the best experience.
Well, it's definitely. I've been to a couple now. I think it's definitely one of those things where it's first come first serve is very much the attitude around it, and because of that, there's a lot of time spent waiting to be the first to get to something, which is unfortunate. Could definitely be a better plan, but it's what it is, right?
I think the one thing which I would say mostly, I'll give us feedback. So I think there should have been a bit more. I think there was apparently a painting competition on, but I didn't hear about it.
I didn't hear about that either.
And I would have put something in for it. So I think that could be obviously better managed, and maybe done on the first day, so that either way it could be managed in a way just to make it a bit more.
I mean, with 3-day events and stuff, it can be really difficult to decide when to judge painting. But I think you either choose to have it done on the last day so people get time to drop their models off the entire time, or you do a mini one every day, and you have best of Friday, best of Saturday, best of Sunday. There are definitely ways to do it.
Yeah, and I think what they could definitely do is like making it so that stuff can be displayed. If it's, I know some people are like, you're looking for best painted army, they're mostly playing with said army during a game. That's fine, I get that. But I think for like single miniatures or painting up a squad, it'd be nice to see it more as a painters event as well.
Yes.
And I wonder, I'll have to meet it with, I will meet it with China, because obviously they've got this push that they want P3 paints to be not just the Warmachine paints, but they are paints no matter what you're painting.
Yeah.
Is how can Lock and Load be a bit agnostic in that sense, maybe, where it's a real challenge to have a painting. Yeah, it's a real, I guess you can't, because you kind of want to showcase what you've got, but there's other ways you can show off the P3 paint. So they did do that, because you were sat part of the paint and takeaway that they were doing.
Yes, I really enjoyed that. That was really good. Like there was a table that you could go and sit down at, and they gave you a miniature, and I just expected it to be like, when I've done painting. It's how I got my mom and my brother into painting Warhammer with me, is I snuck them into a painting thing where you get like a shitty little miniature that it doesn't matter if you ruin it, because effectively it is what it is, right? It's not a great miniature. You take it off and you do something about it. But I was really shocked when Kieran opened up this box and it was like really cool models that you got to choose from. I actually got another model that wasn't an old Umbre model that wasn't in my set, and I was like sick. And I sat there and painted it, and it was a really good opportunity to kind of like use some of the P3 paints. You got like a little, I think it was like puppy pads that they put on the table, so you could you had your little thing, and it was really cool. It was really nice to just be able. I sat down with Lady K, I had a bit of a painting sesh, caught up on things, and it was really nice. Met some new people at the painting table, It was really good, and a nice opportunity to use some of the P3 paints as well, which I hadn't had a go with before. And I'm always interested in using different paints. Obviously, as a painter, I'm always interested in seeing, what's this one going to react like? What's this one going to be like? So I was putting the paints through their paces as well, because I was doing like ombre effects on stuff. So I was having a good time.
Because you which model did you pick up for free? Was it
I don't think it's in here now.
Was
I think
it a
it's actually in my
werewolf or was it a werebear?
It was a bear, yeah. It was a werebear.
Was it the big ass one?
It was quite a chunky lad, yes.
With a bit spiky?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah. Yeah, I know the model. Yeah.
Yeah, he had a chaps out on the back of him.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. As you can tell, I really know my models. Oh, I'm annoyed. I think it's downstairs somewhere.
That's all right.
So I bought my goodie bag.
Yes, of course.
I bought my goodie bag because the goodie bag
you signed up for as a VIP for the event, which is what 100. I think it was like 100 and something for the entire weekend. Obviously, some of us were invited as content creators and so forth. Oh no, sorry. Yeah, you got a no, it's not a werebear, bear rider. Yes.
That's what I got.
And he's the
I really enjoyed that.
I think he might be. Yeah, it's just a standard bear rider, but yeah, you get 3 of those in the other expansion set for Old Umbro.
It was good fun. Yeah, the little VIP bags are awesome. I got a little P3 paint inside it. I got a model, plushy Gogadra.
Yeah, okay.
It's super cute. It's metal as well. If you love a metal model. Then there's a poster in here.
Yes.
And there's stickers inside here. There's like cool little token thing, which is awesome. What's this? Oh, another model. I didn't notice that one.
Yeah, that's one of the Fane of Nero troopers. So
Sick.
It's an example of the style of the model, basically. Yeah.
Oh, there's a patch.
Patch, yeah.
We love a patch. And then there's a ton of stickers. We love stickers.
And actually there's stickers, and then there's temporary tattoos as well.
Oh my god. I love there's tokens.
Yeah, those are objective tokens, yeah. The
world's biggest bloody pin badge that you've ever seen.
Oh wow.
Which is amazing.
Yeah.
So we love that. Where's my temporary tattoos? I want to put them on right now. That's my pass.
Yeah, they inherited a lot of stock from back when Private Press obviously owned the IP. So there's a lot of things like all the pin badges and stuff comes from that era.
Little Warmachine pin bag and another token.
People like them.
I got a command card as well.
Yeah, so the VIP, I think the VIP swag bag was quite nice.
It was really nice.
That. And as you said, like, so you were invited along as an influencer. I was. We had Hellstorm Mikey there. Spen, they were obviously doing work, but also being invited along. You had Lady Kane, Elder Exarch M was there. I'm trying to think who else I remember. There was obviously the typical Warmachine influencer crowd who were also there playing because they're heavily into the tournament side, unlike some of us. Unlike
us, you.
And then who else was there? It was Stu, the narrative painter.
Yes,
he was also there. And I had a good chat about stuff. And obviously Kieran, he's now working for Steamforge Games for the last few months because he's part of, I think he does new business management. So, first time I met him, so obviously we've been interacting on a few things. I gave him a spare copy as well. I gave him a spare copy of Warmachine First Edition, just so he knows what the heritage of the game is. And where it comes from. So that I think he really appreciated that.
Yeah,
because
100%. He would have loved that.
It's one of the, and that's why it was really good to see. It was really good to, you were invited along and others, because I think it's such an opportunity, even though Warmachine has this reputation as a highly competitive game. I think it's so important for you to see what Warmachine as a tournament is like in process.
Yeah,
because it seems super chill. Actually, maybe that's because the average age of the people playing is like 40 upwards. I don't know.
none of us care anymore. We're all a little bit more relaxed about things.
But also because the game is so well written. I hardly saw people put their hand up to have a TO do a judgment on anything. It was just like, it's pretty obvious what things are. And then, so I think it was important for people to see, for certain influencers to see that, and then also it was important to see for influencers to see, and because it's women in wargaming, I think it was important to see how, right now it's quite as far within the wargaming circles, it's mostly a game that's quite male dominated in terms of who's playing it, but actually there's so much scope for it that I think it's quite inviting for women to get into it, because there's a ton of female characters, which is what Em was taking pictures of in the cameras. Like, it's a female vampire, it's a female 100%. It's a female Kadoran Warcaster, it's a female troll, it's a female 100%. This, that, and the other.
I think it's one of the things that, like, the more I look at the models, so like looking at some of the models I've got here, the more I look at the models, the more I realize that, like, it is built in by default.
Yes.
And it's not something that's been sort of like shoehorned in at the end. And it's certainly not something I can't imagine the Warmachine community having a freak out if they the female characters into anything. And like, it definitely feels, I don't want to get myself into trouble, and I get myself into trouble all the time. But it definitely feels a little bit like there's a less toxic element to the community, because I don't think that everybody that's into Warhammer is toxic at all. Like, I don't think that, but there is a toxic element that unfortunately I've had run-ins with. A lot of female content creators will have had run-ins with. And it is what it is. Unfortunately, there is that element of people. I've been doxxed, it happens, unfortunately. I just don't see that happening as heavily. Of course, there's always going to be a toxic element to any community. Yeah. It's the internet. There are always going to be keyboard warriors that are doing stuff, but it feels like, because it's not a big deal. Like, no, it's not a big deal. There are female characters in here, and it's not a big deal as a result. And I love that. I really love that.
Like I said, some of the biggest, most important characters in the game, both on the tabletop as in to use in the game, and also narratively, they're all female, or heck, there's characters that are gay, and I'm sure I don't think off the top of my head there's one that's a lesbian, but I wouldn't put it past there being one. There's no reason in the setting why there wouldn't be. There mostly is. I mean,
this lady that's on the front of the core expansion, like, she's literally front and center. And what I love about her is that she's not hypersexualized. And that's something that's, like, really important for me. Like, I obviously, the female form is beautiful, right? And like, the female form is a gorgeous form. But when I want to paint a female miniature, I don't want to paint a hypersexualized female miniature. Like, I want my characters to be immersed in the setting. And if they're female, they're female. Like, and I like to choose models that are female because it's representation, right? And representation matters. But at the end of the day, like, I like the fact that I can paint something that isn't hypersexualized. it's somebody doing their job. And I've always thought it's so ridiculous in all the comics that I read and all the things that I read that, like, when you have a female character, their armor is like 2 tiny triangles on their chest and 1 tiny triangle pubic area. I'm like, they're gonna die immediately because they're not uncovered in anything. And then when you look at this lady, she's ready to go. Like, she is ready to battle. She's looking amazing. I'm going to have to run because somebody is knocking on my door. So please do continue, okay. Chris. Hi, Ian.
It's me?
Yes. Thank you. Sorry, Chris. That knocking was getting more and more consistent. There's literally a note on the door that says, just leave it.
I didn't know. Yeah, so I said, like, it's really good that you felt that way, and I think others felt that way about it. And I think it's definitely something which I'll feedback to China as well. That kind of feedback, because I think it's definitely a vibe that can be continued, and with the like the new edition of the roleplay game will be spinning up work on it sometime in the near future. That again is an opportunity for Steamforged to put out more models. And of course, in the roleplay, for a roleplay game, it gives them even more opportunity to explore more characters and types in that way, which are true to the setting, but also allow you to explore that diversity, while also just having the amount of diversity that they do have in Warmachine as it is, because it's not too bad, and it will get even crazier soon, because as part of the preview that happened on the Friday late night, so that was 9 p.m. they did their preview, as well as previewing the vampires and the fact that they're bringing back Menoth and Menoth as a faction. They're not doing massively new designs. It's almost refining what was done way back when and just making it more perfect for what it is. They're also bringing back, as part of their Frontiers, My Mini Factory Frontiers in November time. They're bringing back another Crix army, which is they're bringing back the Black Fleet. So the Black Fleet, so you know, is the Crix pirate army. So you've got warjacks that are they're going to mostly be more like the classic ones, but they might have multiple legs because they're meant to be amphibious.
Oh, amazing!
You've also got pirates, either human pirates from the Shard Isles, so we get some diversity of pirates there. We're going to have pirates who are pirate trolls.
Yeah.
We've already got pirate trolls. We're going to get more pirate trolls, but evil pirate trolls.
We love an evil pirate troll.
And then we're going to get a lot of undead, either as skeletons or as ghosts. So there's typical ethereal, ghosty pirates that they'll do. And then we should see, as part of this faction, as part of this army, we will see the Satatics come back. So the Satatics, back in the day, were a very Amazonian, let's just put it that way. We're talking way back in 2003, 2004, 2005. Very Amazonian group of fighters. So you got women with, not scantily clad, but they were, the way they were drawn and sculpted were of their time. And but they're not human. They've got massive antlers. And in the setting, they're like, the men for them are like just kind of withered and everything. So we addressed that in the more recent edition of the roleplay game in Vikings RPG Requiem. We addressed that to make it less of a sexist male gazy like species or heritage of characters that you can play. So hopefully that should surely be pushed forward into how they create the models for those characters, for those fighters. And then also one of them, at least one of them, is Scar. So she is this pirate queen with big horns and a massive sword, and she's just
amazing,
a badass. So I'm quite excited about that. I don't know if I'll collect the army, but because I don't have a 3D printer, but maybe I will and just get stuff. Maybe get a small 50 points
hit
of
me
it.
up. Hit me up if you need some 3D printing done. I know people. I know people.
So I mean, I'm trying to think of what else went on that was good. So like I say, we also had the lore seminars. So Sherwin gave us what's going on in the Iron Kingdoms right now. And then we had a deep dive on the Fane of Nero.
That's really fun. And that's something that I've not seen them do. Like, I've not been at a convention where they've done a lore seminar, I don't think.
Well, and I think this represents, like, I think this is really the big take home of the entire event. Is like, so Sherwin is the lore master for the game.
Oh, was he the guy that was running the train table?
Yes.
Yeah, he was really nice. He was a nice dude.
He's great.
Yeah.
So he explained, he gave a little bit of a peek behind the curtain. So one of the big reveals, it was the suspicion that's always been there in the game, which is the Scorn, which is one of my favorite armies of the game, were actually the first mortals created by the elven gods. They're the failed experiment that got abandoned. Oh. Then the elven gods went off and made the elves. And that's why, with the Fane of Nero coming back in, who are the most ancient of elves, because they were undead way before any of the other elves turned
they were undead
that way,
before everybody else was
they
undead.
might know all that sort of information and lore. So I think the Scorn might have a bone to pick as well going on at some point. So that was really exciting, and learning more about the Fane of Nero and where they come from. But the real take-home point is how accessible Steamforged Games was at this event. And I think going forward, even when it's a bigger event, it should surely mean, as long as they maintain having these like painting seminars and lore seminars and narrative events, and the fact that the likes of Matt Hart, who's one of the co-founders of Steamforged Games, he was wandering around the hall, chatting to people, actually taking part in competitive games with models from the studio. So he had the new massive Trollkin Fortress King. That's the studio paint job. And I'm just there thinking, like, Jesus, do not drop that sucker, because you're going to really annoy someone in marketing. And it's just how accessible they were to chat about it, and to, I mean, one, I say this as, someone that makes content 100%. And obviously works with them writing on the RPG, but I think they seemed accessible, even if you are fairly new to the game. You're super accessible with it, and I think that's the thing that needs to somehow be to maintain that when they get to scaling up the event. And the Magnus Science Center has room to, I think, effectively double, and there are more rooms for seminars that can be used that are bigger. So there's definitely ways to move things around to facilitate that. And I think it's that accessibility, because I was going to say, like, with back in the day with Games Day, when Games Day took place at the National Indoor Arena back in the day, you had all these massive tables and things to take part in, which were narrative. There were no tournaments. There was obviously there was a Golden Demon would take place there, and then you have tables to go and chat to the creators, and so you could get things signed by, like, it would be like the likes of like Andy Chambers or someone like that way back when.
No,
but I don't think we really have that anymore with Games Workshop, because they don't like people talking to the creators, do they? They don't like they don't like people talking to their painters, let alone the people that make the games, things like that.
And I'm not going to say names, and people probably know exactly who I'm talking about. They've got a lot to answer for in ruining a lot of the accessibility to Games Workshop, because I think if Games Workshop weren't continually being undermined by people wanting to leak stuff, we'd get better creator access. It's a real shame. It's a real, because they ruin a lot for the community as a result.
Yeah. I mean, Steamforce doesn't need to worry about that because Matt Hart seems more than happy to leak things when he's not meant to. He'll say things, and you can literally just look over the hall and see China just be like, "What did you just damn well say? You can't say that." It's just, I think that's why, and I think this is something I've been feeling is that Steamforce Games, I feel, has tapped into something which I think Warmachine had a feeling of back in the day when it started. That maybe it lost a bit at its height because it went too hard into the competitive area. And I think by keeping true to like the narrative side of things and the casual play and keeping it as a game that is accessible and exciting and not optimized so that fun is no longer there, is to keep that kind of like, and also just the way that they run seminars and previews. Shout out to Hellstorm Mikey. He needs to install a 15-second delay so he can bleep Matt. It's just like oh man, it's. But I feel like I know that obviously the reason for that is
so
obviously
difficult though. As someone who is a
again
frequent
for marketing
swearer,
purposes,
it's really difficult
it needs
not
to be professional and not wary. But if you're super hyped about your product and everything, and you're excited about it like in that way, and you're the owner of the company, and you're that into the game that you're selling as well, and seeing people enthuse, it kind of what I'm getting at is like, I don't want Warmachine to ever lose that kind of punk rock feeling of it. That's what I want, because when you look at like the stickers and some of
talk to people
the swag we got, and then
accessibility,
the fun of the narrative games, and then being able to peek behind the curtains on the lore and get told, it just needs to keep that kind of, not be too slick, if that makes sense. But I say that, not be too slick. Yet, when you look at how they've done reveal videos, right, and live videos, again, all credit to Hellstorm Mikey for working with Steamforce Games. Like, their preview this time around is even better again. Whereas Games Workshop, a multi-million pound company, multi-billion.
They did much better on their last one with the Armageddon box. They do better with that. But the previous ones, there's been a constant echo on the mic, and I just don't.
And stuff. And
I don't get it. Don't get it.
It sucked really badly. So yeah. My highlights. Yeah, I played in the narrative game. I played obviously took part in the seminars. I got a free mini for my army, which is useful from the paint and takeaway. It was really good chatting to Stu because he's new to it, and Chloe and yourself and who else was there? And Spen. I got to see Spen in person. So and then the other thing was like, so Spen's really new to the game. He hadn't played anything until that weekend. So he got a demo, the type of demo that we're doing at UK Games Expo, where you've got your starter force and you just get to move and shoot and try and kill a giant monster. You know, that's all you need to do to learn the rules of Warmachine, which is great. But then I sat down. I'm glad I brought enough miniatures for. I sat Spen and Mikey down to do a demo, a learning demo game of the Crix starter cadre versus the Kador one. So to really show the rules and the game in full flow. And Spen came away like, I get why people love this game. And I was like, that's brilliant. That's a really, you know, that's just amazing to hear. And for Mikey, he used to collect Crix like back in like 10 years ago. So he had one of the old plastic starters that had, you know, a couple of Warjacks in and a and the Warcaster. So he played with my Crix, and then he was like, he came out of it being like, yep, they play exactly how they should play. They're exactly how they used to be. I'm buying. And he came out of it. He bought the Crix starter, the Crix expansion, and the Crix battle box. And so when I told him, like, right, make sure you don't glue this one together, because actually the character Warjack for the Crix in one of the boxes has slots for magnets. So actually it's an alternate chassis to just be a standard Warjack. And he was like, okay. So it's just really cool to see that excitement with it. And there's a lot of cool stuff coming out. Like I say, all the Fane of Nero stuff is nuts. And there's some really fun rules for them. I've been looking over and trying to understand how they work. They're absolute. They're the inverse. They're a bit of the inverse of what you're going to find with your Old Umbre. So Old Umbre, you've got your war beasts, the big folk horror war beasts that you're going to be putting together and painting.
Okay.
They, as you kill enemy models, they can collect corpse tokens, and as you get corpse tokens on certain of your war beasts, they get more powerful. It unlocks abilities. So your army is a very wind up and go in that respect.
Which is fun.
That makes your war beasts the absolute powerhouses in your army, as well as the fact that you can turn some of your troops into werewolves and shit like that, which is obviously stonks. But the Fane of Nero is like the complete reverse. So your warlocks in the army are your beat sticks, and your war beasts aren't actually that great. So what's happening is that your warlocks in the army are meant to be your classic vampires that are terrifying to fight against and also hard to pin down, because they've got an ability. So they've got their own resource thing as well as fury. They've got something called hunger that they build up. They build it up and then spend it to do cool shit. But also one of their basic abilities with hunger is if you spend a few hunger points, rather than taking the damage from a hit, you pick a model within 4 inches of it, your warlock teleports next to it, and that model dies. So it takes the hit for it instead, kind of. So it's called Blood Shift as an effect.
Yeah,
so
and how that all works together, right?
Yeah, it's going to be super interesting to see in play when obviously there's more of the Rangers out, and and that you've got like you've got your little troopers.
Yeah, they're literally there to just like absorb.
They're not really there for doing damage. They're there to take objectives,
and what a different way to play as well, because you're going to be really strategic with how you deploy those.
So well, yeah, because you don't want things to be too far away from your vampire. You want your vampires up in the battle doing the hard work, because that's what they're designed for. It also opens up some really interesting movement shenanigans, because you're going to have to be you're going to have to be careful about positioning as an attacker because, you know, your opponent, as a result of your attacks, might be able to teleport their vampire into an even more favorable place for their next turn to do a kill, an assassination run on you or something like that. So, yeah, I think it's really interesting, and it just shows that I think Steamforged games
not breaking it,
are trying to push what they can do with the game system without
makes total sense,
without adding in tons and tons of like subsystems, if that makes sense. So, because I think the hunger system is kind of like another kind. It's kind of like having another thing, a bit like the fury and focus tokens that you get in the game. So it's just another resource that you're managing like that, but that is just on your vampire. And there are, other armies do variants on some of the focus of fury manipulation. So Infernals act a bit differently. Cephalax with monstrosities, they're a bit different. Convergence of Cyrus, they're a bit different. So, but we're still within the realms of like the core game is still the same thing. While I've been seeing like everything that's been talked about for like 11th edition 40k, and it's just like, it's depressing. So depressing. Do you know what? Like when they say they're going to update that game, they're like, they've based this, I think there's like 4 different universal abilities in the game that they're basically slapping on units to go, oh, we've updated them. So like, we're going to give this unit lethal hits. You're like, okay. We're going to give this one sustained hits. Oh, okay. We're going to give this one some other standard ability that's not often on it. You're like, is this it? This is the limit of game design.
Got a massive balancing issue.
It's so cut and paste. And it's just... Well, it's really funny you say that because it's one of the things which I think Warmachine's quite interesting that they say Warmachine is never ever intended to be perfectly balanced. The meta, the people playing, will discover how to balance it because they will work out what the tricks are to counter something that's maybe a little bit powerful in the game. But then because of that, then that thing will get abandoned and then a different playstyle will emerge. So it'll be constantly evolving. Whereas if you're chasing pure balance...
I think the problem in 40k, though, is if it's not balanced, what you just get is people absolutely spanking something and you just don't have a chance. You just don't have a chance. And so it's really frustrating, actually. Because it's soul destroying. You're playing a 3-hour game and you're just standing there,
Yeah, it's that.
Yeah, and that's what we don't have in 40k.
Because with Warmachine, they say that every army has a counter for something, but it's about how available those counters are. So say, for example, a Legion of Everblight is the classic example. Most of their units in the game, or at least like War Beasts for certain, have the ability called Isle of Sight that allows them to see through stealth and cloud effects and things. They can basically just see everything on the board at all times. That was pretty much their jam. Okay. But it also meant that they had difficulty in other places. Like they didn't have a very strong, like ranged game. And so you could just pepper them with shots quite happily. It's that type of thing. And I wonder if the reason why Warhammer 40k is getting a bit, by comparison, has got boring is because, and this comes from, here we go, it's Soren Johnson's Game Design Journal. So Soren is Let me just find his about page. Co-designer of Civilization 3 and 4. Okay, just to give context. And the classic quote is, given the opportunity, players will optimize the fun out of a game. So in that search for balance,
100%.
The demand for balance is also can be at the detriment of the game being a fun puzzle game because every solution is then viable for everyone, and I like that.
Yeah,
the way I can play, if I play my Signet army, my Gravediggers, I know I'm not going into close combat with that army. Like, I do not want to do anything with it.
Yeah.
But that will mean.
Yeah, which is totally fair. I think the problem with 40K is that because your games are so like one-off, and this is where like I wish that the campaign system worked better than it does. Because your games are so one-off and they're so standalone.
Yeah.
And when you're playing a tournament, you're not optimizing for any of that. And when you go and you play a tournament, usually most people are playing the meta lists. And the way that I like to play, and this is why I will never be ranked as one of the world's best players ever, because the way that I like to play is I like to think when I'm playing, what choice would my army make? So not what choice is going to win me this game. What choice would my army make? My army, like, because I play Death Guard, it's about resilience. It's about, like the slowing crush. It's all that. So I'm always making choices from that standpoint. I'm not making choices from and I feel my opinion on it is that your play should reward that. Right. And that's where I think 40K is broken because, for instance, if you take a look at Death Guard, they had all the disgustingly resilient stuff removed from them. And it's like, well, that's the whole cornerstone of their lore is how resilient they are, and how they disease things and that kind of stuff. And to have that stuff removed from them doesn't really make sense to me. They should, by default, have a feel no pain. Like they're moving extremely slowly. And they don't punch very, very hard. Some of them do, but most of them don't. So as a result, you should be, and I think that's where Warmachine does really well, is that it leans into the history behind each of the models. It leans into the lore behind the models. You're playing it to lean into that lore. You're not playing it just because this model is super strong, so I'm going to put it in and ally it with this kind of vibes. It's much more like, these guys, their core lore thing is they do this, and as a result, this is what their data sheets say that they can do. And I think 40K's lost that. That's my opinion on the matter.
Yeah. No, I think that's a fair assessment. I think Warmachine, I do think, is quite good at nailing with the abilities and spells and weapons, the narrative of the things in game, and also for an entire faction. So like, again, Crix has got a whole, it's got recursion. So you've got quite a lot of things that can, heal. You can heal your models quite easily. You can raise them back and get them back into the game. You can do all of that, and that's their bread and butter. Whereas like Kador is slow and resilient, and if you didn't have that, it would be very, very weird. But I think I'm glad you feel that way. And we'll dive. I think it's for another episode. We'll start getting into the rules a bit more and exploring your particular faction and what really
I really
highlights
like that.
what they do. And I think as I said, that whole corpse token thing of like they're collecting bodies and they're using that to empower them feels like a fun thing.
Yeah.
And then also the other stuff in the army like is all based around
right?
the fact that terrain like forests don't really bother them. They like that's
well, there has been, and this is like a big thing for the new edition, is that a lot of things are going to be able to move through walls now that couldn't move through walls previously. So it was before that, and someone's going to call me out in the comments for breaking it down to this small, but basically you could have most of your infantry and that kind of stuff just walk through walls. But the second it was like a big character model, like your Primarchs or your vehicles, so your vehicles and your monsters couldn't do that unless it was a specific ability. And that meant that like terrain was a problem and something that you had to really think about. But there's been changes to that in a lot of the keywords now, which means that if you have things with the fly ability, you can go through a wall because your vertical movement doesn't really matter now. Whereas before you'd have to measure over the wall, and with things like Mortarion, you couldn't fucking move it because it's such a big model. And by the time you've gone up and down over a piece of terrain, like you haven't actually moved. You've got no movement characteristics. So you did have to be quite strategic with terrain. And then it started becoming things like knights could just wander through walls and stuff. And you're like, cool, okay, well, if a knight can wander through something, why can't a Primarch do it? You know, like ridiculous kind of things like that. It was kind of like, so there are some things that have changed, and terrain used to be something that you had to really think about. But now I think we're going to have to really, really think about it. So I'm interested to see how that plays into with Warmachine.
Yeah, because I think Warmachine has a very different attitude to how terrain operates. There are things that are impassable. There are things which, like woods and water, it slows you down, or it's difficult terrain. Some stuff, if you're inside it, provides you cover. Some things, if you're behind it, provides you, well, I say concealment or cover.
Is great.
We can just literally have, like say, the cloud effects that you can put down in the game. Some of your models can like drop smoke bombs. Well, you can actually just have clouds wafting on the board, and they can dissipate. So they can start the game there, and then partway through the game, you just go, right, I'm hiding behind this cloud effect. Oh no, it's disappeared. It's dissipated. And it's stuff like that, which I think, and then obviously, you've got abilities that let you go, well, this ability lets me see through clouds. I've got this ability that lets me draw any line of sight, no matter what's in the way. Or in the case of Old Umbre, there's a few things that let you see through woods. And so I think the game has a very different attitude to terrain, in the sense that things actually interact with terrain. And
yeah, it feels a bit like AOS in that respect, where you've got your terrain pieces in AOS, which are actually parts of your army, right?
Yeah, exactly. So it's going to be it's a side of the game I really like, because it's an opportunity to have really interesting terrain on the board. Like Warmachine had a whole problem that it used to be like tournament play back when you had to measure things precisely. Because of that, people then just defaulted to 2D terrain, to templates, because it's easier to measure with. But once we moved back to, once we got to pre-measuring, and obviously now we don't even have facings on models, you can play to intent. Like you can just go, look, we all agree this model I'm placing here is a bit, janky on the terrain piece, but we all agree it's not in your charge range. And everyone will be like, yeah, it's not in my charge range, done. Let's move on. And I think that's the really that's a really
Which is
good
really
part
nice.
of,
That's how
of
you
it.
want
And
to
again, I think
play
represents just the maturity of the game, as in, like, no one wants to have arguments. Let's just get on with it. I was going to say the other person that was at Lock and Load, not really, didn't have lots of stock there because it was more to see what people wanted out of his products and to see how much they were being used. It was one of the Steamforge Games partners. Well, I think he's a third party, but might be now a partner.
Oh yeah,
for
fun.
stuff to make the stuff more official. Was the Monstrous
I'm
Makings
while
who
we're
do
doing
the
this,
tokens.
What a better way to have a conversation.
So I'm just taking off all the protective plastic on all my tokens right now. So I've got tokens galore here for my Kador. So I still got more tokens I need to buy for my other armies, like which one? Old Umbre I need to get the token set for. And I wouldn't mind eventually getting more token sets. Well, getting all the token sets for everything I've got. But they're really good tokens. They're accessible. Chris is a really cool guy. I think they're easier to get hold of than the other official set of tokens that are done by Broken Egg Games. They're based in the US. So yeah. So there's a lot of opportunity there with third parties. I know some good stuff coming up also related to that, which I'm not going to say yet until it becomes more official and paperwork is signed in places, and China won't kill me for it. But it is really good. I can just say it's dead exciting.
It wasn't up and running when I was there.
And then the other thing that was good, did you get to try out the AR experience?
I've got my
so yeah, I think this is really interesting because like me, you're a techie nerd. Yeah, so what? And I did a video on this, but I'll reiterate it for you and get your impression of it. And I think this is where we'll wrap up and let you paint your old Umbre. So what they had place here was a way of, so you're playing Warmachine via an AR experience. So it's a mixed reality experience where both players are wearing, in their case, they were using the MetaQuest 3. I always kept referring to it as an Oculus, but it's a MetaQuest these days, whatever. And of course, that isn't just a virtual reality headset. It has cameras at the front to see your environment around you, to overlay things. So what this allows you is you can have two people playing Warmachine that are not occupying the same space. Now, you might go, well, hold on, is this any different to Tabletop Simulator or War Table? So War Table is one of the popular ways of playing Warmachine online. But it's a very 2D... 2D look that top down 2D play space. There's no 3D element to it or nice looking graphics. What this allows you to do is it can see your models. It can recognize your models, and then it can project them. So cool. Let's call it project them. It can virtualize them for your opponent, so your opponent sees them on their table, on the opposite side of the table. And that means that, as I've said, I was saying to them, is like it provides a very naturalistic way of playing because you're still moving your models. Your models are still there in your physical space. You still have dice.
Oh, that's a good idea.
The terrain is all virtual, but they said that they might consider doing something where you do print and play boxes of the terrain. And then they occupy, and then both, as long as you and your opponent on your tables put them in the threats places, they can be virtually overlaid, but it also means your models can physically interact with it, like stand on a hill or stand on a balcony or something like that. And ultimately, the goal would be, if you have this system interact with the Warmachine app,
Perfect.
You can then touch, I say touch, point at a model and it'll bring up its stat box as a heads up display. And I think it's rather than like what some people seem to try and do with tabletop games when they introduce tech, is that it almost adds a barrier to the gameplay, because you've now added more and more layers of like UI and things to do. This is you're still doing what you would do every other day, which is you move a model and roll some dice and measure some distances.
You could have the whole, I'm sorry, my brain's just like, because I'm just thinking of like all the applications of that. Like imagine like the campaigns that you could run. You could also bring in like very similar to the narrative piece that you guys were doing with the train set at Lock and Load, is you could have something like that where you've got games that other people have already played that you're then bringing into that thing and then reacting to how they like. There's so much you could do. It's wild. Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's crazy what could be done. So I'm gonna keep in touch with them. Because it'd be kind of cool. Like if they've got another build at some point they want testing, I think it'd be really cool for like us to go down, because they're based in like Derby area. I think to get two people who are like, to get some wargaming techie people who are into other stuff, like I've used AR and VR for like visualizing chemicals and simulations. And then also there's everything to do with the AI side of things. And when I say AI, I mean the pattern recognition side of things, because this is all about seeing how do you know what the models are on the table. How do you, like, this will be a huge, like, I didn't ask them this, I just suddenly thought on the pattern recognition thing, right, or maybe it doesn't matter, or maybe it will matter.
Mm-hmm.
So if you've got two identical models, right?
Yeah.
So if we think of your old Umbre army, if you've got two of the Apex lupines on the board, okay, they're the same sculpt.
Yeah.
So it's going to pattern recognize what those are. One gets damaged in game, so it takes some hits, right? And then due to gameplay, at some point, the models come in proximity to each other and maybe even move past each other.
I would assume so.
Will it still be able to track which models had the damage dealt to it?
Assign a token ID.
If that's a aim of their system. Obviously, you will know, because you can put down. Yeah, but it's that kind of thing, of confusion. What I'm getting is like models being confused because they're similar looking. It may not be an issue, so that's exciting. But yeah, I was bugging them about like, what's your back end like for this? Because this is going to have to scale. Like, are you, what cloud services is this running on AWS? What's the back end running? Like, what's your front end? Clearly you're using stuff like Unity, but the running, to run things at a fast rate. Is there stuff on the back end? Is it like pre-compiled Rust? Are you running some Python? Are you running
it's all
something
vibe coding,
else?
yeah.
I mean, these are questions though that don't really matter anymore because of like using AI tools for coding.
Makes sense to not vibe code if you're doing anything secure.
You say that. We're not doing in my day job. We're not really vibe coding. No, because we do a lot of we do a lot of prototyping to work out what our design requirements are, to then write our design stories that are more detailed, to then write up the tasks, so that then when you get through finally to the AI side of writing the code, it's already planned out that it can't really mess up too badly. And then also we have so many templates in place. The thing that I'm more interested in, I've been meeting this with my boss, is that this is totally aside. If you're watching this, you're into Warmachine, I'm sorry about this, but the thing that's very exciting with it, and it's really the proper use of AI, because I have no need for it in slop. We're talking like enterprise usage is, but this reflects into why we like war games and systems design, and why actually I've written an article for work about why tabletop games help inform you about what you do in
100%.
using in programming with AI, because the AI is like a player that's very bad at interpreting the game book, and so isn't playing to intent. So the thing you can do is, if you've written your code really well in Python, because you've got assume you've got very good unit tests and model data of what the input and output is, you can then get the AI to reinterpret the code in, say, from Python to Rust, because then the Rust is pre-compiled and runs faster than the Python
the dice
would.
are lovely.
Just one of the things I'm kind of excited about. Anyway, that's completely an aside. The other thing is, I got you your dice. So you've got your Old Umbre dice, which are really cool.
Getting some games in is going to be super fun.
So I guess at some point we'll try and get hold of tokens for everyone. That's the next goal on the list of things, and get some games in. But really,
because you've got me right in the middle of bloody competition season now, so
yeah, we need to get.
That's what I'm doing the whole weekend. No bank holiday outside for me. I'm just painting.
I mean, like I said, you took. And also, and the other cool thing will be like because you went down to MPO, we can talk about that another time. Is it'll be good to start seeing Warmachine.
The models are cool enough for it. It's just
painting competitions that are like that. So exactly.
It was a great weekend.
Exactly. I think there's a lot of opportunity there for that. But yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed that weekend. I really enjoyed it, and it felt super premium, and I can't wait for next year.
I will see you there.
Can't wait I'm going to get this video out. The video is actually going to come out this weekend. So obviously I'll be at UK Games Expo on the Friday running demos at the Steamforge Games stand. You're going to be there just having a fun time.
With the gang.
And then onwards from that, we'll get another video of this sorted with Gareth and Mark, and see, I think, really like where we are with painting our stuff, and we'll talk a bit more about, I guess, the lore and the setting, because
what are they up to?
Now people have got minis in their hands. There's going to be some questions about who are these funky people doing.
No, I just wanted to say that if anybody was feeling a lot like I do when I attend events, and you can feel very intimidated when you don't know a lot about something, and I know that having attended events in the past, I've had to hype myself up for attending the event. I didn't feel like that at all. Like, it didn't matter what level, like from people who were creating all the narrative stuff through to some of the guys that were designing things. Everybody was really nice. Everybody was really accessible. I didn't get made fun of once. And, I shouldn't have to say that, but it's a reality of, when you don't know a lot of stuff and you're just learning. I was going around tables and I was looking at people's models, and people were just really excited to talk about stuff. And yeah, it was really lovely. So if you're one of those people that's a little bit shy and worried about attending something, don't be. It was a really welcoming community. It was lovely. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. Cool. Well, that's it for now. I think I don't want to take up much more time. We've got a good hour and a half on, just under an hour and a half on that. So if you've watched this, by all means, go back to previous episodes of this Tale of 4 Warcasters. If you also check out the previous episodes I've put out, there's one that goes into place here a little bit more, again, in detail. There's also my wrap-up of Lock and Load as well. My own personal opinions go into a bit more detail on that. I will be doing some content around Fane of Neuro, so I will record mostly at some point this weekend. I'm going to record a very short 3-minute Who the Hell Are They video, Forces of Warmachine. So I'll get that done, and then I'll see where I go with things next. Like it'd be hopefully, I hope some more lore comes out soon, because I'd like to delve into one of the characters if there's any lore that pops out for them at some point. And I will likely get hold of some minis at some point for them.
Painting sessions as well, where we just sit and paint, because I've got an overhead cam, so I can sit and just paint and we can just chat.
Yes, that would be good. Same here. I can do the same. I am almost finished painting my Gatorman army. I've got about 10 models left to paint, and then I will be cracking on with my Scorn that I want to get finished. And I also need to do an unboxing of, because I got in the post, my Kingdom Death expansion for the what is it, Screaming God. So it's a giant goat, and it changes Kingdom Death's play. Here's the way you hunt him. It's a rolling road type scenario, so the terrain moves down the board. So that's exciting. And there's a cool model in it called the Parasite Queen. And from what I've looked at the sculpt, or bits of the model.
Okay, so what you're basically saying is that's the sculpt I need for my body horror shenanigans.
Cadavers and stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, Kingdom Death is a lifestyle. It's definitely something you should check out. It's great. Cool. So yes, that's everything. So we'll say goodbye for now. So goodbye.